What's a challenge? Like something you said in just a few minutes ago was about how sometimes people who are suffering or dealing with mental illness can be in their own world that they don't even remember to where they bring their mask up to their nose. And it's not because they're being unintentional about it. It's not because they're intentionally not trying to follow the rules. It's just that they just don't realize that that's what's happening.
They have too much traffic in their head.
Too much traffic in their head. So my goodness, that right there could be an article.
Yeah, because I probably need to take my poem. Okay, I have a poem. Oh my God. Mm-hmm. I mean, okay, I get you. This is so helpful because of the fact that I got to be more mindful. Like I have my March things coming up, and I selected 2 articles. Mm-hmm. 2 articles. One that they both deal with Black males, because that's the void in mental health is that Black males are not addressed enough.
This is Build Your Difference, a podcast created by Blue Artists, a brand platform with one goal: to help great visionaries like you build impressive brands. Every month, we'll bring you insightful tips, knowledge, and compelling stories from successful entrepreneurs and the Blue Artists team on how to create and market a winning brand that does more than just launch a new product or service. It starts an ongoing conversation. Because you're not just making a brand, you're making a difference. Let's start building.
Did you call me Shirley?
Oh yeah, I sure did. But that was before the recording. Okay. All right. Hello and welcome to Open Sessions. This is a part of the Build Your Difference podcast. My name is Pierre, and once every so often we look to invite entrepreneurs and small business owners onto the show, as part of our partnership with the Table Advisory, to hear about their businesses, to hear about their endeavors, what it is that they're working on, maybe if there's any challenges that they've encountered and they're looking to try to overcome those challenges, or maybe just to share some great tips about what it means to navigate this new business climate that we kind of find ourselves in. And we're really pleased to be able to engage with all kinds of business owners, entrepreneurs who are speakers, who are starting their business for the first time, people who are in different sectors or different industries, and and authors. And actually, I'm really pleased today because we are joined on the Build Your Difference podcast on today's open session by Blue, author Blue La Poetess. And I'd like to welcome you to the show, Blue. How are you? How are you doing? Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Thank you so much for having me, Pierre. And I'm just really honored to be able to speak my truth. A little bit about me is that I am an author, poet. I've been a storyteller since I was like 7 years old. And I really kind of feel emphatically that we all have a story to tell. But I really feel emphatically that Black people, people of African descent, have been storytellers since the beginning of time, even with caves and cave drawings and Kemet and all those. This is a very old civilization, and it's much said that everyone's origin started in Africa. So that being said, moving forward with oratory stories and grandma giving her potions and her stories about things. So it's led me to be a storyteller from early on, and I chose poetry to tell my story in the beginning. And I'm an educator now. That pays most of the bills. And I created, with the help of Brand X, I created my company, Blue Lotus Illumination. It's bluelotusillumination.com for those of you who would like to go to the website. But the most important thing that I created along with the company was my dream to come true to be an author. And I'm not just buttering bread because I have Pierre on the phone. I just would say this to anyone, that I've always wanted to be a published author. I've always wanted to be a published poet. I've always had a passion for words. And I have synesthesia, so that colors my words. It makes me see letters, and my senses are a little out of whack. So I taste yellow, and I smell gold or red or something like that. So with all,
Wait. Could we actually just dive a little bit into that? I'm really. Could you just? How did you discover that you had what? It's synesthesia. Did I say it
yeah,
right?
yes, synesthesia. And
How
it's
did you
more of
discover that you had that was
when I was
something you had?
okay. Thank you for asking. Well, it's supposed to be a disorder, and when I was very young, when you're learning your colors and you're learning how to spell them, my mom said to me, "Okay, Sherry is Blue is my stage name, but Sherry, this is how you spell the color blue." And we all know what blue is. That's the first color I learned how to spell. Thus,
Mhm.
blue is my color. So she said BLUE. So I'm, mom, no, mommy, no, mommy. And she says, yes, Sherry, BLUE. So we went on and on with this. And my mother just couldn't understand why I couldn't get the letters right for the color. I said, Mom, the B is red and the L is yellow and the E is brown. So it's a sensory disorder in which you see letters and numbers in various colors. So how in the world could a little 4-year old fathom how to spell blue when it was yellow and these different colors? So it was
Yeah.
a sensory disorder. It was diagnosed, but I'm dating myself if I say I'm a little older now. So they didn't really have a lot of training about synesthesia. So I had to kind of find my way.
Mhm.
And so, but it also became prevalent, and this is really quick. I don't want to take up a long time, but since you did ask, so if my mother played the piano and she hit the C note, I
Mhm.
saw yellow. C
So
note was
when
yellow.
when you say you saw yellow, do
Mhm.
you mean that the world that you saw became yellow, or did you see
Yes, the
specific?
note, the note that she was playing, it became a yellow aura. It's crazy. I know it sounds
Oh
insane,
my
but
God. Is that like a cloud or
yes,
something,
sort
or
of like a cloud, but
like a
like a
swirl?
like a flash of yellow, like a flash
Wow.
of yellow. And then
Okay.
she called me in for dinner because my mom was the ultimate cook. And I say was because I lost my beloved mother to COVID-19 in November.
Okay.
I rest her
Sorry to
soul.
hear that.
Um,
Yeah.
he cooked like no one else. And so um, when she said, Sherry, come in for dinner, I would see gold, like my path to the kitchen or to the dining room was gold. I know that sounds really strange, but not to a person that has synesthesia. And
Yeah.
so she said, I made brownies. And instead of like getting the taste in my mouth, like I would see, like a dark, dark cloud of chocolate or
Yeah.
hear the baking of it, or hear like a melody. I know it's really, your senses are really out of whack.
Hmm.
So everything is popping. So all through college, I had to color code all of my notes. And when
Hmm.
the teacher was speaking, I had to color code everything. So
That
I
is
was
really
training
something.
myself. And then later on, I got a therapist and they helped me with the synesthesia. Thus,
Hmm.
my stories that I create and the world that I create with my company is always in color.
Yeah. Yeah. That is really fascinating. I remember when we were working together on your first book. I do remember that was probably one of the first times that I had learned about this. Is it really a disorder, or is it more of a just a condition?
Well, it was said long ago to be a disorder because, it could be quite disturbing if you're taking notes and, they change
Mhm.
colors, the letters, and you're reading. And that's probably why I became such a ferocious reader at a very young age because I had to
Okay.
train myself, to see the letters in the colors that they were.
Mhm.
Then I had to learn how to accept them in whatever color they paraded as. I had to learn how to accept, like you're talking to me now, and sometimes words that you'll say or words that you're saying when you're working with me,
Mhm.
they will be in a color. I'm not kidding. Or your voice may come out in a hue.
Mhm.
Like sometimes when we're conversing, I'm sorry, public to say, your your aura to me is like an aquamarine.
Wow.
It's like an aquamarine color.
Wow.
And so I'm not trying, yeah, it's a disorder or my therapist told me to look at it as a gift.
Yeah.
So to me, your aura is aquamarine.
Wow.
And it might be because of what you do and how you speak and different things. So
that's really fascinating. Thank you. Thank you for being so vulnerable and sharing that. Um, I think that's something that a lot of people probably, do you think a lot of people go maybe without getting diagnosed? Like maybe this is something they're experiencing and it's not something they talk about?
I do. And Todd, sorry to cut you off. I'm getting anxious. This is not a question that I am trying to color a race, but I really think just like mental illness or any other disorder that is different, I think Black people might say, okay, well, I think Black people might look at it as a gift.
Yeah.
You know, in the world of religiosity.
Yeah.
You know, in the world of like religion. Some other people might
or spiritual in the world, just if you're in tune with the fact that there's more than just what we see or in this physical world. I mean, because when you're explaining this to me, that is how I perceive it. I do see it as, my goodness, what a gift, because I see it as you have a unique advantage over others, probably. I mean, it's like I don't know that these are similar at all, but people who have like a photogenic memory and can remember pages and pages and pages of text. And I look at that also as a gift. I think when I'm acting, and I actually cannot seem to learn the lines unless they're highlighted, and not just highlighted, but highlighted in different colors.
Because that might be a form of synesthesia.
It very well might. And to me, that is a gift, because it helps me to learn huge chunks of dialogue. Absolutely. And to sort of, I don't even know if I'm highlighting it according to like an emotion or something, but there's something about the colors on the page and the text that allow it to stick.
And I am here to tell you that's what a synesthesiac does. All through grad school, I had yellow, I had light blue, I had pink, the highlighting. So I think, my dear, you might have a slight form of synesthesia.
Yeah, wow.
Which is a gift.
Yeah, I definitely see it as such. And actually, that's one of the things that makes your book so unique to experience in physical form. When for your readers who purchase your book and are opening up the physical book itself. Now the ebook version, the Kindle version, based off of the limitations with that technology, I don't know that it can do this, but the physical version, I do know you have a special edition version which is full of color. Not just the beautiful artwork. Yeah, I want to talk about it, and I also would like to talk about your work in mental health. Okay. So
what would you like me to tackle first?
Let's
tackle the mental health word.
Would you like to start with mental health?
Sure.
Yeah. Okay. So we're segueing now from synesthesia right into mental health. Let's go ahead and do it.
Some people feel that is a mental disorder because it's of your senses. It's a little sensory disorder. So segueing into mental health.
Now, how long have you been an activist, by the way, in mental health?
My son is now 25.
Okay.
And well, he'll be 25 on March 25th. I always say, I have this thing about numbers too, 25. So anyway, he developed his mental illness at 12. I started with anxiety, depression disorder. And so I had to help him not want to die.
Okay.
He wanted to die. I hope this is not too personal.
No, please share. Yeah.
I created a world. In which he would go to should he decide to take his life. And he said, Mom, I don't want to be here. Mom, anything's better than this. I said, no, Cameron. Because if you go to the world of Illuminactum,
Mm.
Didn't know what I was talking about. I said, where there is a land of no sun. I said, that is a horrible world where people go who take their own lives.
Wow.
I said, it's a land of hell.
Wow.
I could do because I was making the world up. And I said, you'll have these death messengers and they'll come to you right before you die. And they'll lead you through a portal into the land of Illuminoctum, where the grass is silver only in a minute's notice.
Mm.
The flowers are black. They're spewing a honey-like substance. And you will get to perform for 24 hours with all of your vivid detail of guitars and everything, because he's a gifted guitarist. But should you stay for 24 hours, your world of Illuminoctum will turn to the real world of decay. It will be a decayed world with no sunlight. There'll be skeletal vultures. They will pick your bones. Your millions of people in your audience will turn to skeletal remains. I said, you will be gone for 24 years just to stay 24 hours in the world of Illuminoctum. You can't come back.
My God.
So I made that up to him, and I was really more vivid than that, and talked about how things would happen and he would never get back and he would have torment. And so he said, well, I'm going to tell my psychiatrist that you told me this. And so
oh my goodness,
he escalated out of depression, but not really. And so I said, oh my God, I kind of have a gift here that I need to bestow upon people, sort of, to make up stories. And so you don't know, but that's going to be my next fantasy book after my Salty Seductions. I'm writing it right now. It's a fantasy book, kind of like a serial, we have so many gifted writers of fantasy like Suzanne Collins. And of course, we have, the writer of Harry Potter, but we don't have a whole lot of Black fantasy writers. And I'm sorry to keep bringing.
There's one that I often hear, one Black science fiction or fantasy writer. She's a woman. So I don't remember the name of this author. I might have to look it up. But anyway, I hear she's the only one that I hear of who is a Black woman in that space.
She's like my favorite, so I have to get her name. Just excuse me.
I'm trying to think of a book. See, I actually have not read her books, but I know Brittany's a big fan, and I'm trying to remember one of the. Let me see if I can just Google it.
She's written so many books, science fiction, Black writer. Are you gone?
I'm still here. I'm just doing a quick Google search.
She's very renowned. How come I don't?
Yes.
Know? That's the COVID brain.
Let's see here. I'll know when I say Octavia Butler. That's it.
Yes. Okay, so she's deceased now, and she's like my mentor. She's my mentor, and I'm an educator. And so in my school, I often teach her stories.
Okay.
I often teach her stories because a lot of my students are like, well, Miss B, what about Black science fiction writers? And so I tell them, I'm a Black science fiction writer. And so then I teach them about Octavia Butler. So yeah, that's the COVID brain. Earlier this year, I had COVID. And it's a fog that exists. So I don't want to take up a lot of time with my personal. So how I moved into mental health is my son. So I decided I needed to leave a legacy for him. He's a very gifted multi-instrumentalist. He plays 8 different instruments musically. And so oftentimes mentally ill people are said to have a brilliant madness. It's a brilliant madness. And I think there was even a book by Patty Duke Austin. She used to be a famous actress. I'm really dating myself now. And I was a little girl when she had her show, Patty Duke Show. And so she had bipolar disorder, and her book was called The Brilliant Madness. So I find that a lot of mentally ill people have gifts. They have music, they have writing, they have dance, they have art. So Blue Lotus Illumination wants to speak to that.
Okay.
But the goal of Blue Lotus Illumination is to meditate. So I want all of my people that come into my world of Blue Lotus Illumination to meditate and get their bearing. I want to educate them about the world of mental health. And then I want to legislate, get into my realm of getting policies and laws changed, because right now, Black men are the highest number of jailed mentally ill people. If you're
Right.
a Black male
Okay.
and you have an episode, you're not going to the hospital, baby, you're going to jail. That's where they take you. And how do I know this? Because my son has been handcuffed 18 times. And if I
My God.
wasn't
Oh,
there to
wow.
fight for him, he would have gone to jail. He wouldn't have gone to the mental health hospitals, of which we're talking about. He's been to 17 mental health facilities. So I felt like a company needs to happen that spoke to that. And the
Mhm.
last thing I want, here are my principles: meditate, educate, legislate, and elevate. Elevate.
Got it. That's
To a
awesome.
new way of
Yeah.
thinking, a new way, because mental health workers are so needed, but we need some of them that look like us.
Hmm.
We really do, because
So how are you doing this though through Blue Lotus Illumination? What are some of the steps, or I don't know, have you programs, or what ways are you actually enacting and providing this kind of outreach and service?
okay, so on my team, I have different artists.
Hmm.
I am a bibliotherapist. So you want me to speak a little bit about
Yeah,
that?
I do. Do you want to talk about that now, or do you want to sort
You
of
want to
come? Maybe
wait?
we can come back to that if you
Okay,
can give sort
so
of
I'll
your
talk about my
broader.
artists that I have on my team.
Okay.
So I'm the bibliotherapist, and we
Okay.
are all under the guise of a therapist, a licensed psychologist. So
Okay.
I'm a bibliotherapist. I'll talk about what I do. I have a music therapist, I have an
Okay.
art therapist, and I have a dance therapist.
Okay. And I'm gonna
So
write this down
one of
actually.
them do different things in the therapy of the mind and the soul.
Okay.
So I do
So,
my therapy through verse, poetry, and literature. So I'm a librarian by trade. I'm an educator and a librarian. I'm a master's degree holding librarian.
mhm.
It's what I do every day with students. I'm always guiding students, teachers, families into what book should I read for this? What, and they don't have to be subject oriented books. They could be nonfiction, but maybe you want a story about somebody else that has dyslexia. Maybe you
Mhm.
want a story about another student that has anxiety, depression disorder. Maybe you want a story about a student or someone who's been bullied. So that's me, bibliotherapist. That's what
Okay.
I do. I'm a
Now,
licensed.
how have you seen that uh, positively affect those who do work with you? How have you seen bibliotherapy affect the patient? I don't, is patient the right word, or client maybe?
Client, but I have
Mhm.
students.
Okay.
So it's affected them wonderfully,
Okay.
because everybody wants to know I'm not alone in this. Wow, there are actually stories about somebody like me. Oh my God. My book, Mosaic of Madness, if I can be permitted to talk about that,
Absolutely.
has resonated with so many young couples who have a husband or a boyfriend or partner who has bipolar disorder or schizophrenia, or they're a narcissist. And they say, wow, I'm not going through this by myself. This woman, Kenya, which is my protagonist, she has actually shown me that I'm not alone. I had
Mhm.
a man who was bipolar and who was domestically violent towards me. And this is what she did. And she wrote poems about it. She made a playlist. She made a playlist to address her plight. It
Mhm.
kind of, the book, even though it's fiction, it's been fictionalized. It's based upon a true story. I just have to take my book. And it really helps people when I get to talk about it. Of course, I had it come out with Brandex in 2019, and voila, in March, we were in the midst of a pandemic. So I
Right.
haven't really been able to push it much as I
Mhm.
would like to, but books and literature and poetry help people to address their cognitive issues by
I see.
reading, by reciting the poem, by having somebody recite it. You want to create poems about your plight. You want to
Mhm.
create poems about your man or your woman. You want to talk about I love him emphatically, and you don't have to rhyme. Poetry doesn't have to
Mhm.
rhyme. To
How
him,
does it?
was, yeah.
How does a sort of a typical or standard, I don't know that anyone is typical or
Session.
standard, but yeah, how does the session work with you? I mean, are you listening and then you sort of determine, okay, based off what I'm hearing, these are the books that I might want to recommend? What is the process that you go through?
So they're recommended, they're referred to me by the therapist, by the psychologist.
Okay.
So she makes them come into my space. And so I chat with them by phone first to
Mhm.
get a feel of how much time they'll need. So then they come into my space by bluelotusillumination.com.
Mhm.
And then once they come in there, they book their time. Will they need
Okay.
45 minutes? Will they need an hour? If it's a couple, it has to be an hour because we're doing.
Okay, so you're taking on not just individuals but also possibly couples as well.
Yes, I take on couples as well. Because
Okay.
in this time of the great pandemic, people are really getting fed up with each other, or they're noticing habits about their mate that possibly they didn't know, or maybe
Mhm.
there's a little anxiety, maybe there's a little violence. I am not a psychiatrist or a psychologist, but I am a bibliotherapist. So when they're referred to me, or even when they come to me, because I can't tell you how many people will say, Sherry, what can I read? Or, oh, Blue, what can I have? Or can you recommend a piece of art? Or can you recommend a verse? So they come to me and I listen to them by asking them questions.
Mhm.
So I ask them about their plight or about their journey. And then I develop a prescription. I even call it a prescription.
Okay.
And I have levels of a prescription. They could pay for one book.
Mhm.
They could pay for a bundle of 3, or could
Okay.
they could pay for a box set of 5, because it's just that deep sometimes that they
Yeah.
need 5 books, they need 3 books because they don't want to have to keep coming back. They want me to help
Mhm.
them with, or they might just want 1 book. So
Mhm.
I will discuss it with them
Mhm.
so they will know which gift pack to purchase.
Okay.
Oh, I only want
Now,
1 book right now, Blue. I'm feeling you. And so I will recommend it to them after we have our session. I don't give
after
them
you
the
have
book
this
on the
session.
session. We
Okay.
talk for an hour. We talk for 45 minutes. I get their energy. I get their
Mhm.
colors. And then but with each package, I write a handcrafted poem.
You know what? That was going to be my next question. Was you're going out and you're investigating to find which book that exists is appropriate to meet the needs of this particular client. But when you make that recommendation or you provide that prescription, is there is there do you also provide a sense of context? Like, for example, this is what I want you to pay attention to within this
Absolutely.
book. Okay.
Absolutely. I
Okay.
write them a I write them a handcrafted letter
Hmm.
giving them context. I wish I could do it on, we'll talk about that later. If there's some kind of way I could send them a newsletter or something, a prescription in a newsletter. But I
Hmm.
also, yes, I tell them, I highlight, because I'm a librarian by trade. So I have a master's degree in library and information science. I'm not trying to brag, but that's what I have. So when
Okay.
I teach students how to read a book, take notes, when I teach them what websites are valid and have authority, or about plagiarism, or any of those things they need to know about, I am knowledgeable of how to help others, how to deal with the context of their prescription.
Hmm.
So
Okay.
if that makes
And
any sense.
you also said that you also write a handcrafted
I
or an
do a
original
handcrafted
poem.
poem. I can make up a poem about anything.
Okay. Wow,
I,
what
you
a
know,
what a
I think
gift.
it's a gift. It's a gift.
I
So
used to love to write poetry myself when I was much younger. I went through a period of time where I was just very, I just always wanted to write. Everything was poetry for me, and I wrote a lot of poetry.
you
And
still can
then,
write poetry because you're an actor. You're a very gifted actor. I've seen some of your work. You're a very gifted filmmaker and all the many things you do. So, poems are just our feelings.
mhm,
So I'm feeling excited. My energy and my goal with you is quite requited. So
mhm,
it's not unrequited, it's quite requited. So I mean that's a silly poem, but I can make up a much deeper poem if I
wow.
have time. you know, because I mean, it's a gift. It's a gift from God. I really think that I can do it. I know I'm using my hands a lot, but I use a lot of my hands. I'm very animated. And so, yes, that's how that session works with me.
Okay.
Now, if I feel like they need to have, they say, well, you know, I'm really feeling like I want a playlist. Oh, then I refer them to my music therapist.
To your music therapist. Okay.
Now, my music therapist, this is something we need to talk about as my business person.
Absolutely. And we can cover that in this open session as well.
I get a percentage of my music therapist. I have to get the finder's fee.
Right. Absolutely. Well, you're essentially referring the customer, the client to them, right?
Yeah.
So
I have to get the finder's fee. So if I'm referring them to my music therapist, then Blue Lotus Illumination gets a finder's fee.
Got
they
it.
Get a percentage. Okay. They go with them, and that's their journey through teams. Through teams, because we have teams. But the other person, which is my visual artist, I have.
And when you say visual artist, are we talking about fine art, or are we talking about photography? What is?
I'm talking about both.
Okay.
That's why I have two. So I have a photographer that takes the person down a journey with photographs, because photographs can become, as we know, a muse for writing your feelings.
Yeah.
So I've looked at many cityscapes, and they look convoluted. And I wrote a poem about the mind. I wrote a poem called Traffic in My Head.
Wow.
I've got too much traffic in my head. You know, so they'll maybe go through a session with the photographer person and come back to me, and we'll write a poem. So this is my team. Then you have people that need some kind of movement thing going on. They need to, like, oh, I'm overweight. My husband thinks I'm fat. You know, I really want to have this, but I want it to be a one-stop shopping. So I have a dance therapist.
Okay.
He's a retired dance instructor who will, on the teams, lead them into movement, stretching, moving, elevating. And then I have the last one, music, art, dance, and I'm the writer. I'm the writing. So you see the levels, but each one of them pays Blue Lotus Illumination a percentage.
Right. As you are sending them clients.
Right.
Okay. And that makes a lot of sense. And
because it's mental health through the arts. It really is, because they have a therapist. That's the cognitive individual.
Now, I do have a question. Just for our audience who may not be familiar, and are just sort of learning about all this for the first time through what you're sharing with us today. What is the distinction between what you're doing in terms of therapy versus, say, like going into, let's say, movement therapy or dance therapy? What's the distinction between that and, say, dance class, someone who wants to go and learn and take a class in that particular topic, photography class, or a book club? Just what's the specific, how do you make that distinction?
It's one and the same.
Okay.
Because I can teach them how to write with bibliotherapy. I am able to do that. I'm a writer. I teach them how to write their own verse. I work with them, but they need to read about it. They need to know that they can do it. They need to feel confident that, okay, I have this depression, so I need to move into some stories or some literature about what I have, or ways I can move out of it. And I am able, through BlueLotusIllumination.com, and by the virtue of that I'm through Brandex, I am able to offer a class in writing and poetry. My music teacher, through Teams, is able to offer a music lesson. As a matter of fact, she asked them, would you like to take piano? Would you like to take flute lessons and things of that nature? Do you want to learn about music appreciation? So my artist person, who's a photographer, can teach them photography online.
It sounds to me that, because you're saying that they're one and the same, and I receive that, but I also, I do hear a little bit of a difference, and I think, and I'm going to pitch this to you, and you let me know if you resonate with this. But it seems that your goal, by way of therapy, it's to help the client discover themselves, to help
Yes,
them understand what's happening inside of them through these different mediums.
mediums.
And
Yes, so it's by any medium necessary.
yeah, and
That's
I
my
really
motto.
I like that. I like
Yeah,
that, and
that's what I'm here for.
I see that as a distinction from, say, someone who wants to learn something like this, and or not like this, but let's say someone wants to learn dance, or if you're giving a dance class, that class might not be focused on helping the individual to express themselves,
Yeah,
but
to find
rather just to learn this dance,
absolutely. Yeah, so
And
you are right. I guess I misspoke. You're right. You always bring that out of me. So it's really learning how, like you said, to discover who they are and
mhm,
what's their purpose,
mhm.
and how do they move into the light by these mediums. So it's by any medium necessary. I guess
Okay.
that should be on my website.
Yeah,
Okay.
I mean, this is, like you said it now several times, and it really does stick, by any medium necessary. And I think that's a great something that people probably need to know up front, is that, hey, you know what? What if what if I am interested in music therapy? Is that something can I get that through you? If I go to you, is this a one-stop location where all these different avenues can be met? And you're right, maybe that's something that should be better reflected on the website. I don't know that it is at the moment.
No,
I think
it's
right
not.
now
And
it's
I was going to talk to you about that because I wanted
yeah.
to talk to you about how I would, and then we need to talk about percentages because I
Yeah.
spoke to
So
each of these
we've
people.
got I think a pretty good background now, right? I think at this point we understand what it is that what your goal is, and we understand what your services are. I mean, broadly speaking. And then on top of these particular services, we know that you're also an author, so we know that that's available. Your books are also available on your site, plus your writings. And we also know that from time to time, you'll be offering, I'm assuming, virtual workshops, or maybe
I
even.
would like to. That's my goal. That's why we're talking today, because I
Okay.
do want to have virtual workshops
Mhm.
available. And I wasn't quite sure how I want to do it. I mean, I'm going to be launching a YouTube page, but that's not going to be a workshop page because that's just going to
Mhm.
be a elevation, meditate, educate,
Right.
legislate, and elevate. That's going to be like a
It's output.
bi-monthly, I think, promotional page in which I
Yeah.
feature poems, art, and poetry and things of
Hmm.
that nature. And then each time it's going to talk about, and I was going to get your advice on this. Each time we're going to talk about, like the first one's going to talk about COVID,
Hmm.
COVID and mental health. I mean,
Okay.
mental illness, because mentally ill people are dying faster than a lot of people because of their mental illness, particularly Black mentally ill people with COVID.
Okay.
Because I can take my son, he's not dying, God, thank you. He had COVID, but he had a really good caretaker that made him wash his hands, get his medicine.
Hmm.
But a lot of mentally ill people, I don't want to jump too far. I know we have a little bit of time. Um, they're not cognizant of that they're not washing their hands.
Hmm.
They're not cognizant that their mask is all the way over.
Okay.
They're not cognizant that maybe they're not wearing a mask. And they
Hmm.
may not be cognizant, they're brilliant people, but they're in another world sometimes. So in their world, they're already isolated.
Hmm.
They're already in a world of isolation and mental
Yeah.
distress. So to have to get 6 feet away from somebody is hard for them. They need a hug. They need a handshake. They need a kiss. So I think that's why I'm going to deal with my first topic that I'm going to speak upon on the YouTube channel, because we're still in this virtual vortex of
Yeah.
science fiction. I'm going to talk about that, and I'm going to have a poem that addresses it. I'm going to have a song that addresses it, and I'll have a piece of art that addresses it.
Now the YouTube channel, uh, really, this is about producing. I like to call it output. Okay.
Okay.
Value output. In other words, you're I mean, is it, so here's the thing. When we look at producing, say, a podcast or a video vlog or some kind of output like that, oftentimes, we're sort of taught that the goal needs to be to bring in customers. Like the goal needs to be to promote our services so we can bring in customers.
Absolutely.
And there is absolute merit to that. But what we're also finding is that if that is the only goal, then you will not bring customers because you're not providing any real value. Because what tends to happen is if the only goal is to bring in customers, then you're going to be very sort of limited in terms of what value you're providing, because you want them to be customers before they get that value. And we kind of have to change that paradigm and say, hey, you know what? This is about positive output. This is about, if you're listening to this, hopefully this, you know, if I'm you, Blue, and I'm pushing out content on my YouTube channel, I want my content to be sufficient. So if that individual chooses for whatever, if they don't want, if they should be able to listen to your material and receive so much value from that maybe that particular issue that they're experiencing is now resolved because of what you provided.
I get you.
Okay. And then what happens is they begin to say that again.
Do you think I need to rethink my YouTube thing then?
Well, no, I don't know that you need to rethink it, because I think you may have already been on this track, but I want to affirm you. I want you basically not to hold back. When you are going to produce content for your YouTube channel, I want you to do so with the mindset of I'm putting out value. I'm putting out value. Even if this does not turn into a sale for me, that doesn't matter. It's about making sure that this is the best content that I can put out there, so that when someone's listening to this, they don't see this as a sales pitch.
I got you.
Okay.
I got you.
Because
So
once it starts to feel like a sales pitch, then they kind of tune it out, right? And they go, well, I'm not gonna listen to this commercial all day. I want to, give me some real value. In fact, I was talking with someone just the other day about why email marketing often doesn't work, because you know that I really believe in email marketing.
Yeah,
But-
and I wanted to talk to you about my other channel, but I thought did I already buy it? Because I got a
That's the thing. You do have email marketing already on for Blue Lotus Illumination. But I want to tell you, first of all, why has email marketing historically been so unsuccessful, especially as the rise of social media? And what do we need to do to fix that? Well, the first thing is that it's not successful because we are trained to think of it as junk and spam.
Okay.
Why is that? Because it's not giving us any value. You get someone's email campaign and it's basically a sales pitch. It's basically, you have this problem, we have this solution, click here, save money, buy now. Okay. And that's the campaign. And so people see that and it goes straight to their junk folder because they're just not interested in this right now. But I have a very interesting form of email marketing that I do, and that is every single time you and I correspond in email, every single time I send an email to any of my customers, that is email marketing. The difference is that I am providing actual value to my customer. I'm either answering a question, or I'm providing a tip, or I'm directing them in a particular way. It's addressed directly to them. They can read it. They perceive it as value because it's meeting their need.
Well, how do I do that?
And that's what I want you to consider. When you're posting content, now we know on your website that we've designed it so that all the material that you post to your writings page can become a newsletter, right, at the end of the month, which saves you a lot of energy. So now the question really is, how can you be mindful about the kind of content that you're posting to your writings page? Okay. So on the one hand, you do want to post content that is your truth. So in other words, you want to post, your poetry, or you want to post a writing that you did. But you also want to make sure, because this is going to be in the newsletter, you also want to make sure that you're posting something that is completely value driven, giving value to the reader. So the reader is reading this and it's as though you're speaking directly to them. So what's a challenge? Like something you said in just a few minutes ago was about how sometimes people who are suffering or dealing with mental illness can be in their own world that they don't even remember to where they bring their mask up to their nose. And it's not because they're being unintentional about it. It's not because they're intentionally not trying to follow the rules. It's just that they just don't realize that that's what's happening.
They have too much traffic in their head.
Too much traffic in their head. So my goodness, that right there could be an article.
Yeah, because I probably need to take my poem. Okay, I have a poem. Oh my God.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, okay, I get you. This is so helpful because of the fact that I got to be more mindful. Like I have my March things coming up, and I selected 2 articles.
Mm-hmm.
2 articles. One that they both deal with Black males, because that's the void in mental health is that Black males are not addressed enough.
Okay,
that's something that I don't have but 5 minutes or something. So
don't worry too much about the time. We're okay. Unless you have to go, we're okay.
Work with the Black males, be they 5 years old, 18 years old, 12 years old, 50, 90. Veterans, and that's another thing that my company has got to get with you about, because I have a visually empowering testimonies and stories page where I work with Black male veterans, even though all of them need, who are mentally ill. But I have to focus on the men because there's a void there. The men go to jail. They go to jail. They don't go to the hospital. It's like that whole angry Black man thing, and he's just big and black and he's angry and he's crazy. So I'm sending him to jail. But he's ill. He's mentally ill. He didn't want to have bipolar. He didn't want to have schizophrenia. He didn't want to have schizoaffective or depression disorder or personality disruptive disorder. It is chemical, biological, or one of those 2. So anyway, getting back, I need to be mindful of the articles I just put up with Brand X. I put up 2 articles. One was about Michael B. Jordan.
Okay.
Who suffers from depression. Because celebrities get people's attention. I'm kind of,
Absolutely.
And then I wanted an everyday Black man who has a mental illness, who is out here in the world.
Okay.
In a published article, I don't have time to write it myself all the time. And so that was clever of Brand X to capture that and put the art up there. But my 2 poems, and I'm actually going to do 4 now, you're helping me to know that if they come to my page, this is the type of poetry that I'll design for them. Like Traffic in My Head, or The Vanity of Insanity. That poem was in my book. I'm pushing that one. So, or something more peaceful like Moon Shadow, which was dealing with the mind. And would you become my moon shadow? Can I become a person of your shadow self? You illuminate my soul. So you're helping me to know what poetry to put up there now. You want to think, this is not a sales pitch. This is me actually solving the problem, or me actually writing to the problem, writing to the issues I see. How would the newsletter say that? Because isn't it still going to look like a sales pitch when it goes out with my 4 poems on there?
No, it'll only be a sales. It's only a sales pitch if you are making it a sales pitch. If you're saying buy, you don't have to say buy not one time. There's nothing you need to sell. That's the thing. That's actually the thing, is there's nothing that you actually need to sell. Because when somebody receives this, first of all, if they're receiving your newsletter, remember, it's because they opted in for it. They want to hear from you. Okay. If they've signed up, they want to. If you've added them to your mailing list, that's because they know you have a relationship with them and you feel comfortable adding them to your mailing list. So there's already a connection there. They want to hear from you, however frequently it is, and they want whatever it is they hear from you to be meaningful, so that when they receive it, it's not organized and filed as spam or junk. It's not, Sherry's trying to sell me on a service that I don't need. It's, oh, wow, I'm passionate about the same exact theme and topic and subject matter that Blue Lotus Illumination is passionate about. And I'm grateful to Blue and Blue Lotus Illumination for updating me this month on what's going on in this in this field or in this sector, so to speak. Okay. So basically, you want your readers to feel grateful that you're keeping them in the loop with what's important and what's relevant in this movement,
arena of mental health.
right? In this arena. So as far as the email marketing is concerned, that's something that you do want to keep in mind, but I want you to also take that and sort of build off that also for what you're going to do on YouTube. Ultimately, people are going to buy your services, not because you've told them to, but because they want to sit down and talk with you. They agree with you. They're aligned with you. You have something. You have a presence, you have an aura, you have a way of seeing things that people want to tap into. They want you to help them. That's how you're going to sell. So that's how they're going to know, you know what? I need to talk to Blue. Yeah, she gets me. She gets me. So she's not selling me. She gets me. Now, and you know what?
Well, how are they going to know how to get back to my website?
Oh, well, that's for more information, go back to bluelotusillumination.com. Okay, so I mean, that's not selling. Yeah, you can, and you did that very well in this podcast. Where in the beginning of this podcast, you were very clear about what your website is. You were intentional about making sure that you advise the viewers to go and check you out, and that's something you can always and constantly do. But that's not selling, and I want to be clear on that. That's
a lot of noise. I'm sorry. I'm right.
Oh, no problem. But I want to be clear that you should not feel any hesitation about encouraging people to go back to the website, because the thing is, there's a lot of value on that website, right? Not everybody's going to be able to afford some of your services. Okay. And that's okay. They should still get value when they come to your website. Maybe they can't afford the thing that I've learned.
Stories.
Right. Well, and also the thing that I learned is that just because someone can't afford your service today doesn't mean they can't afford your service tomorrow. it's just no today does not mean anything. It could mean yes tomorrow. So it's about exposure, keeping them coming back to the site and keeping your audience in this frame of mind, which is that she gets me and she understands what I'm going through. And the thing is, you also have a very, and you didn't talk about this, but I want to bring this to your attention.
Okay.
That you have a perspective that's shaped on your own journey with mental illness, but also on the fact that you have guided your son, okay, through his own journey. And from my perspective, that makes you quite unique, because I'm going to take I'm going to take a guess and assume that there are a lot of other people, a lot of other mothers, fathers, parents who are in a situation similar to you, where they have kids that are struggling with mental illness, and you can speak directly to those parents. And it sometimes, and I want you to think about this, is sometimes it's not just about speaking about the problem, right, or to the person who has the problem, but providing support to the caregivers. Absolutely. And maybe that's something that you can, I think there's a whole treasure trove there of material and of content, of advice that you could probably design an entire podcast around. Okay. Where you're talking about what it's like to caregive, and how for someone who's going through or struggling with mental illness, and what are some of the things you've learned. I love the story that you told us, the anecdote that you shared at the beginning of this call, where you explained how you helped your son to be discouraged by thoughts, of suicide, basically not to take action on thoughts of suicide.
Because in future books, and I don't want to take up a lot of time, but hey, they're coming out with Brand X. In the future Mosaic of Madness, is the last story. It's called Musical Genius of Madness. That's my son's story. That's very long. Boy, am I really going to have to get a deal with you. So his story could be a book. So I want to say this. He was 12 years old. I was given a call at school by him. He said to me, "Mom, it's goodbye." I said, Cameron, where are you? I'm home. I didn't go to school today. You thought I went. I doubled back. Cameron, what do you mean it's goodbye? By the time you get home, Mom, I'll be dead. No, Cameron, stay on the phone with me. I was on my way home in traffic. This is in Washington, D.C. It's in the book, but I'm going to say it now. I was in loads of traffic. I was blowing my horn. It's all in the book. I was seeing all kinds of colors because, you know, with synesthesia, you don't see the world when you're anxiety ridden. I was seeing red and I was seeing purple and I was seeing yellow and brown and black. So I was in my car. It was a backup on Suitland Parkway. If anybody's from DC, you know, at 3 o'clock in the evening, it's a backup. And I said, but this is more vivid than normal. And so I got out of my car to look, and a lady that was coming from that direction, she said, a kid tried to throw himself into traffic. He tried to throw himself into traffic. I said, my son. I knew innately, this is true story. So coming down the hill from our house where we lived was Suitland Parkway. I didn't know how he was going to try to hurt himself, but that's just how he tried. So I ran from my car. I put my blinkers on. I didn't care if I got a ticket. I ran all the way. It was half a mile. I had high heel shoes on. I threw them to the side. I'm not kidding. I took those. I'm always trying to look cute. I had high heel shoes on. I threw them there. I ran up. They had my son. They had him. The police had him. They weren't mean to him. They had him sitting down. They said, it's okay, son. It's okay. This looks like this is your mother. I said, let me through. Let me through. And the one cop had put my son on the ground and he was going to try to handcuff him. I was told later. But the other cop, who happened to be Latinx, let me say it right, he had my son. I understand what he's going through. Step back, step back. He has a mental condition. And I came there and I said, Cameron. He said, I don't want to be here, Mom. I don't want to be here. I want to go. And I took him to Children's Hospital. And he stayed there for 30 days. And while I was in that hospital, I told him that story. So I'm not trying, I have a lot
My goodness. Wow.
So that's going to be in the third book, you know. That's his story. So anyway.
Wow.
Yes, you're right. I do have a lot of personal.
Yeah.
But you see how that could be a story.
Yeah, I mean, what
you see how that could be a screenplay. I'm not kidding.
Yeah, that there's just so many things that strikes. There's so many things there, Blue, that you are equipped to talk about.
Because of Brand X, I can do it.
Yeah,
because
well,
of Brand X,
thank goodness. Yeah, and I'm very excited about that. You know, I really am. But I really, just the point of what I'm saying at the moment is just that we're discussing some of these services that you are offering, and we've talked about your authorship. We've talked about the therapy services. We've talked about the fact that, you know, it's a good idea for you to push content through YouTube and to create valuable content that you can push as a podcast. And I believe you can do all of these things. But I think what we discovered in today's open session is that there's also a lot that you have to offer to parents who themselves may not be struggling with mental illness, but who may be caregiving of a child.
Yeah, we had noticed that because I'm an educator too, and I'm very nurturing.
Yeah, and I wonder, what can you do to provide value to those individuals? Okay, not just their children and not just those who are struggling with it on a, you know, directly, but people who are caregivers, because that story is so impactful. And I think that there are so many parents who can live that, who can see themselves in your shoes in that scenario. And I mean, that is something
with that. So you'll have to help me.
Yeah. Something has to.
You brought out something new in me, you know, something new that I do all the time.
Yeah. I mean, you know, this is what I'm going to suggest, because I don't have the answer at the moment on what can you do with that. But this is what I say is when you know that there's a market, right? And you know that you can provide value to that market, but maybe you don't yet know how to monetize that. I would just start providing the value. Just start providing the value, and then the market will sort of teach you how to charge for it.
Okay.
But I never in all the years that I have been doing business or been in business, and I have definitely fallen flat on my face so many times. But one of the most important lessons that I have learned is when I see an opportunity, don't sit around and wait to figure out how I'm going to make money off of it. Just start providing the value. Just provide the value. And then it'll kind of work itself out, because at some point someone's going to say, I want to pay you for this, actually. And so I would suggest, this is what my suggestion is. You're right now in sort of the space where you're developing the content that you will be producing on your YouTube channel, right? So you're putting together your ideas. What kind of podcast you're going to have, what your topics are going to be. And I'm going to say, really, you should consider focusing heavily on caregivers, whether it's bringing on a caregiver to talk about their experience, maybe having a regular, kind of like what we're doing right now, where we have an open session, but bringing on interviewing parents. I mean, there's probably no end to how many guests you could probably bring on the show who are themselves caregivers of other people, and sort of comparing notes, talking about what works and what doesn't work, their experiences.
I think that's an excellent idea. Yeah. Oh, Pierre, that's so good, because I didn't know how. Because a lot of parents ask me, they say, how did you get Cameron this? And how did you get Cameron that? Yeah. And so like I work with Cameron in numerous ways. He has a fitness coach. Mm-hmm. Because the endorphins, as you're exercising, I know we're running a little over, the fitness thing is imperative for his mental health. Because if he works out, he's focusing. He's counting off 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3. And the endorphins are going up to the brain. Those are those happy melatonin endorphins. Those are those happy pills that are happy energy giving. And then if he's doing art, he's expressing himself. He's through paint or through photography. I didn't talk about my artist, which that's a little story. But anyway, through music, that's his solace. Even if they want to listen to it, they want to make a playlist of songs. Where am I now? Where am I in my love journey? Oh, he dumped me. I mean, I'm not talking about kids, but I'm talking about people too.
Yeah, okay.
Like people. I just got broken up with my crazy book. I talk about with my grandmother's remedy. I put on there, if your man, and this is not sexual, wants to take his sugar spoon and dip it in a younger, more sweeter sugar bowl, he's not coming back to your sugar bowl, your old congealed sugar bowl no more. So that was my grandma's. I'm just saying that was, because I put that in my book, because it's a part of sometimes why women become depressed, men become depressed, they lose a lover. And then there are tips I offer even in the book about making a playlist, finding when did you fall in love? What was that playlist? When did you fall out of love? What's that playlist? When did you get over him? What's that playlist? So, I know that sounds silly for the caregiver, but, on that YouTube channel, I've been a caregiver. So I'd like to offer some tips, then bring others on, like you're saying, to offer tips and maybe offer tips to them.
Yeah. And do it kind of like, I mean, look, you know how to use Zoom. We are on a Zoom call right now. So you can easily create either Teams. You have Teams, so you can record your calls there, or you can do a Zoom call like what we're doing now and record it. Have someone on and just share the discussion.
After I record it, though.
Well, so you do want to.
You guys edit it.
Yes, it's probably a good idea to edit before it goes live. So you don't want to do live, okay? You want to sit down like we're doing now, bring someone on, make sure they know the purpose of this is to provide value to others. So it's to talk to each other, it's to work through whatever the discussion is, but it's ultimately
conversation.
Right. So that way there's no misunderstanding that this is a private call and this is not, the purpose of this is for others to listen to and to gain value.
And I think I'll develop a niche, like you said. Thank you, Pierre.
Absolutely.
I think I'll develop a niche, and I won't, have any reason to charge. This is just something. This is this conversation. Because as I'm looking on YouTube, I don't see anything like that.
But look, if you don't see anything like that, there's other people who don't see anything like that. That's the thing. The internet is so vast. Is there something for everyone? Sure, there might be, but you know what? If you can't find it, then that's saying something. And so you have to create that. And you
I have
really
one last thing to say too.
Okay.
My son is now seeing an African shaman.
Okay. For what? What's the purpose of that?
Shaman. Okay, so there's many books out about it. I kind of tend to think outside the box a little bit with my colorful world of synesthesia. So someone sent me an article about shamans among us. And what does that mean? So my son has schizophrenia, so he hears voices. It's like turning the radio on in the morning one day and Mommy, it won't go off. I hear these, is the TV on downstairs? Is the radio on? I even created a poem about that. So you can't turn the radio off. You can't turn, so you have to learn how to live with the voices. So how do you channel them for the good of the order? So African shamanism, West African shamanism, way before we had psychiatrists, way before we had, doctors. In Africa, you had shamans. In the Native American culture, you had shamans. So it's a person that teaches an individual with that type of mental illness how to channel the voices for good, how to channel the voices and quiet them without a lot of medication. What's the name for this voice? Let's give this voice a name. And first, the person is going to deny they have them, but the African shaman is going to make them say, it's okay. You're gifted. You're gifted with the voices. Let's talk to them. Let's talk to them together. Oh, that one makes you want to hurt somebody. So we're going to quiet him and find out why he wants to hurt people. So I know it sounds nutty.
No, well, it doesn't. It doesn't sound nutty, actually. This makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, I don't have a colonized mind. I don't know if that offends anybody.
Yeah, but I understand what you're saying.
A colonized mind, I think. Okay.
Well, the colonized mind, I guess mainstream thinking would be what pills can just dampen
nothing but the beds and the meds. It's the vicious cycle of the beds and the meds. I started to make that a T-shirt that I sold through Blue Lotus Illumination, make a circle.
The beds and the meds.
So anyway, and then I had another quote that said, I know I'm talking a lot, I'm going to finish up. I had another quote that it's asked a question on a T-shirt. Does mental health translate to pharmaceutical wealth? Does mental health equal pharmaceutical wealth? Because that's what it is. These pharmacists are legalized drug dealers. But anyway, so going on, yes.
And by the way, Blue, that's what, if you put that in your newsletter, if you put ideas and topics like that in your writings that are on your website that then get disseminated through your newsletter every month, that is value. Okay. That's what your audience wants. Okay. We want the poetry, we want the anecdotes, but we also want these sort of sharp ideas that come from you that are so poignant, so profound. And you could do an article on that. You could do a couple paragraphs on that topic with a graphic that does exactly what you just said. It does mental health.
You have excellent stock photo.
Excellent stock photo. Yeah. And you put that up as an article. Okay. And then that gets sent out in your newsletter next month. Okay. And people come to your website, they read it, they like it, they leave comments. This is what it's about. All right. So I'm so glad you said that, because that is some incredible, that's it. That's what people want to read from you. And that's not a sales pitch.
How do these psychotropic drugs really help? They really make people fat and how. So, I've learned a lot with you today. You want to recap? Because you've taught me so much today, this discussion. Now I have a message for my YouTube channel about caregivers. That's so awesome. That's
Yeah,
my
let's recap. That's a great idea. Why don't you tell me what you got from all of this? And then because I was engaging, but I didn't write anything down.
Okay, so I got from you about my YouTube channel focus, and sometimes you have to act on doing and not worry about the wealth you have to create. So this YouTube channel is not about making money. This YouTube channel is just about spreading value.
Right.
That's what you taught me. So that's awesome. That's awesome. So I'm going to do the caregiver route, and that's true good for me because that's my truth. Caregiver. Invite caregivers on, make tips, create poems. I can still use my art. I can still have music on there. Like I always like to have music because that's like, So then as far as my newsletter, if I'm addressing an issue that people really want to read and it's not a sales pitch, I'm not selling them anything. I'm giving them valuable information for them to further read and possibly to learn and glean something from, like my slogans, like does mental health equal pharmaceutical wealth? That's a good question.
Yeah.
Okay, then I'll talk about it. And how does it do? What are your thoughts?
And that's several writings. That's probably several articles right there, because I'm sure there are layers and layers and layers and layers when you dissect that particular topic.
Okay. So that's
there's a lot.
Then I said something along the lines of there's a vicious cycle between the beds and the meds.
Yeah.
And I'm not just talking about a mental health bed, because the way I'm doing my drawing, I might have to employ some artwork from Brandex on this one. I want it to be a mental health bed. So it'll be a big sign, MH. Then it's going to be the meds. It's going to be somebody's head with pills up in the air and coming. Then it's going to be, they're out of that. And then it's a jail bed. Got it? Maybe a bed with bars. Because they always go to jail. I mean, this is the journey, unfortunately, of the Black male. And then they get out of jail, because in jail, they get no pills. They get no pills. They get no therapy. So they're back out on the streets, and then they have to go back to a mental health. Then they get the pills, and then they stop taking the pills, and then they go to jail. So you see the circle?
Yeah, I see it.
So I can write a lot about that cycle. Was that the one you were talking about?
Yeah, that is. And I'm going to give you something else. I don't know is there more on the list? Because I just had another idea and I want to give it to you.
No, I don't know. I'm taking your advice.
Okay, so this is another idea I want you to consider. First of all, look, Sherry, Blue.
We gotta go.
Okay. Listen, we can, it is easy for you to sell merchandise. Okay. Like t-shirts, for example. If you just make the artwork, right, it can be put on a t-shirt and printed. Super simple. So it's actually
artwork.
Well, if you can get the artwork made, you can have an artist do it. You can commission it, or you can have us do it. But we're not talking about complicated artwork here. So the concept that you just said, the vicious cycle between the beds and the meds, and you had like an idea of sort of a circular showing a cycle. That's something
might
that
even
you
have arrows going around. Yeah.
Right. So this is something you could have a graphic designer. We have plenty, but whatever, you could have a graphic designer simply create a graphic. This vicious cycle of between the beds and the meds. That graphic, I don't know how much that would cost to do, but it would not be much. But once you have that graphic, then put it on a t-shirt, sell a t-shirt. So when we put these articles out, if you write an article about this, at the bottom of the article, there could be something like, if this really resonated with you, or you could say something like this to your reader. If this really resonates with you, or if you find that this is an important that our mission to combat this resonates with you, or is very important, support us now by buying this t-shirt and help us spread the message. Okay.
And it will be on my website, right?
And in the newsletter. So as they're reading the newsletter, at the bottom, when they read that particular article, at the bottom of the article, you're asking them, if this is important to you, help us spread the message.
I love it. I get you.
Okay. And they click they click the buy now button to buy their t-shirt, or donate button, and they click donate, but they get a free t-shirt in response to donation. You get that money.
How do I get that going? Are we going to talk about it next week?
Okay, yeah, we could. So I want you to know, this is, write it down. That's the first step. Get that written down. And then the second step is ultimately it's really simple. Creating the artwork, and then creating how you're going to get these t-shirts made. Okay. And I wouldn't even spend too much time on that, because there's so many solutions. There's Printful, there's what is it? Zap. Oh, hold on. I used to Zazzle. Thank you. Yeah. Zazzle's probably going to be the easiest one to get things up and moving with. So there's Zazzle. There's what?
Before we go, because I have other t-shirts I need to have made, so we'll do this. I want to do this. Okay, you see this t-shirt?
Yes, I see it.
I want to sell this on my website, but I need to get Brand X to do it. And then the second story in the book, which is Beautiful Madness.
Yes.
I mean, I have all those t-shirts made, but I want to do it. So we got a lot to do.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna write it down. I've learned that, and I've also learned that my poetry has value outside of my book.
Right.
That's what I've learned. So now I want to end with one of my poems that's very short.
Okay. All right.
Is that okay? And this is a poem that resonates with domestic violence, if that's okay.
Mm-hmm.
Is that okay?
Absolutely. Please share.
Okay. It's called Paradise in Chains. And this is also in my book, people. Okay. His love was like a paradise in chains. Nothing but the thoughts of chaotic confinement remains. No more to gain. Catastrophic pain. Cast out in the rain. To begin again. Without that love that was like a paradise in chains. Feelings of this one or that one shortly start to wane. Try as she might, she can't contain his happiness without her fake nails, fake hair, and all of that finesse. What a mess. Heart like a broken window pane. She's so hooked on that torture ball and chain. Girl, where were you at when your mind was free and they hollered, ooh wee. You is fat to death. You only see what he wants you to see now. Can you catch your breath? To catch him in another lie that digs in so deep it makes you cry, aching so bad that you want to die. You tell him you love him, and he asks you why. He says, baby, you a dime a dozen, not one of a kind. In my phone, you went snooping, so what you seek, you will find. And when you challenge him and take a stand, he rewards you with the hard slap of the back of his hand. He grabs his thing and you are feeling real low. Icing your broken jaw, you still whisper, hey, baby, please don't go. Come here and let me oil your scalp and rub your back and stay for a while. You turn to placate him further, and there stands your male child. Don't pay no mind to this, son. That should mean nothing to you. But you know that children do as they are. They don't do as they're told, but they do as they see us do. Break free from the cycle, from your violence. You must refrain. You don't want it. You don't need it. That paradise in chains.
Wow. Thank you.
That's in the book.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing that. That's, whew, I felt like, I kind of felt like, because I was seeing it as you were reading it. It felt like a stage play or something, or I felt like I would see this dramatized.
But if we ever make it into a play, which I'm really trying to do, but I gotta have more money, or a screenplay, I want you to play Tristan, who is that husband who is the sax player. So we'll talk about that later. But I know I've got a lot of crazy ideas, and I am really trying to write it into a screenplay myself, because I do have that capacity, but that'll take time. So this has just been a pleasure.
Well, I'm glad. Thank you. Thank you so much for sharing all about your journey, and giving me an opportunity to offer some advice and some advisory on this open session. It's been a real pleasure to have you on, Sherry. And
it's been a pleasure to speak.
Obviously, I've been calling you Sherry, so I hope that's not going to be a problem.
That's okay. Lou La Poetess is the stage name, and I have another book coming out, but we won't talk about that one.
Okay, not yet, maybe, but okay. Before we go, let's just remind the audience of where they can go to learn more about you, and what your most immediate thing is that you want them to know about. Okay, if there's something coming up right down maybe next month or very, very soon that you want people to be aware of, let us know, and let us know where we can learn more about you and find you and reach out to you if we want to connect.
Well, the best place to find out more about me is my website, and that's bluelotusillumination.com. You can find out a lot about me there. You can find out a lot about bibliotherapy if you're not sure what that is, and find out about my practices that will be ongoing, the services I offer. You can find out a lot about my writings. I have to get more of them up there, but there is a blog up of an article that I published in the Washington Post. But all the other blogs were written by Blue Artists, Brand X. They were awesome. I had to come up with the topic, but they wrote the articles, and I'm so happy with them. But you'll find out where my mindset is, that I am a person who wants to meditate. I create that journey of meditation, meditation, got to get it in front of me, education, legislation, and elevation. So those are the meccas. And look forward to my vlogcast. Is that what we're saying? It is.
You said that a couple of times to me when you were describing what you want to do on YouTube. So let's stick with that.
That's going to be on the realm of caretakers and helping the caretakers take care of us.
Yeah.
Because we all have something. We all have a little mental something going on.
And when do you think that's going to start to become available for people to?
I really am aiming for late March, early April.
Okay.
I have to get the content together.
So springtime, let's say springtime.
And then I need you to look forward to a book coming out that's going to be produced by Brand X, and it's going to come by way of Blue Lotus Illumination by another author by the name of La Vixen Bleu.
Okay.
So she resonates with me, and I will push her book through Brand X. And
Understood.
That's going to be
this is exciting. And
that's coming immediately through Brand X, and I want to just name the themes. Okay. It's called Salty Seductions.
Okay.
So it's a book for the grown and sexy.
Yeah.
So, but the topics are Black Fire. That's our men, our kings. Black Flower. That's our women. We're blooming. Black Gasm. Well, I'm only going to let you imagine what Black Gasm is. And Black Storms. And what does that equal with all of that journey? Black Bliss. That's the culmination of the family, of love, of storms, we've gotten over them, of Black Flower and Black Fire getting together, going through it, Black Bliss. So those are the themes, and there'll be 10 poems by La Vixen Bleu underneath of all of those topics, and artwork.
Excellent. I'm looking forward to that. What do you think that? So that's coming immediately. You said it'll probably be available for your audience in springtime, right?
I'm getting with the author of the book, and we're working out a deal where she's paying me in installments, and then I'll be able to offer it to get it to you immediately. Okay.
Well, I'm looking forward to it, and just if you're listening and you're interested in publishing your own book, just know that on Brand Desk we have several different businesses, and our publishing business is called Walters Publishing. So you'll find, if you want to go to www.walters-publishing.com, that's where you can learn more about the publishing arm and all the different incredible things that you can do there. And Blue, I'm so happy and thrilled to have. Yeah, there it is, and I'm so happy to have worked with you on that and to have you on today's show. I'm very proud of the work that we've done together and that we're continuing to do together.
We're going to do so much more.
Yeah. And I just want to thank you for being on the show. And with that,
I'm going to be calling you about everything.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, this is great. There's so many incredible ideas now to build off of. We need to do this. This is so important. Okay.
This is what this was about, right?
Right. That's exactly right. Open sessions. So that's it for today's open session. And we'll see you again on the next episode. Take care.
Thank you so much. Bye, everybody. And thank you so much, Pierre.
All right.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Build Your Difference. If you'd like to learn more about how Blue Artists can help you develop a distinguished brand that inspires and engages a growing audience, then please visit us at www.blue-artist.com and be sure and subscribe to our monthly podcast for the latest tips and trends in brand development and marketing. And remember, you're not just making a brand, you're making a difference. Start building yours today.